Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Show with your host, Jeff Lopes.
We are live. Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. I got a special guest on with us today, Steven Celi. Steven, you want to say hi to our guest? Say hi to everyone.
Yes, what's going on? How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for having me on, Jeff.
Very, very good. It's Friday morning here, and it's a little rainy. It's a little rainy in Florida where Steven is as well.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, actually.
Yeah, a little laid back. I always start off our podcast letting the audience kind of get to know who our guests are. So Steven, let's just get going and let's just get to know who you are and what you currently do.
Sure. I had a pretty transformative year in 2019. I'll try to hit on the key points because there's some big milestones that I hit. So I was graduated from UCF in Orlando. From South Florida. I went to Orlando to go to school. I was there for almost 8 years. The first 5 were in school. Then I graduated with a background in IT. Worked there for 3 years at a company called Advent Health, doing IT database. It wasn't really my passion. And I spent those 3 years getting busy. I was always creating videos. I knew what I loved to do. I was watching people blow up on YouTube. I was like, maybe that's my calling because I love making videos, love being on the camera. At the same time, I was teaching myself how to dunk, just a dream of mine that I never really thought was possible. And I saw other people on the internet do it. So I got super amped to try that out. Made some great progress. My channel was growing because of that. And I realized like through my dunking journey, I could push myself to do things I didn't believe I could do. So in 2019, I made it a goal to try to leave my corporate job. It was always the goal, but 2019, I was on my own. I was living alone. I was like, this is the year to do it. I'm saved up. I think this is a great launching pad. And last year in August, I made the jump. I quit. And since then, it's just been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. I started coaching more people. I have more clients than ever with teaching people how to jump higher. I landed a great client as a podcast producer. That's my main job right now, called Books to Business. I'm the audio engineer, do all this content creation, social media. And I also in 2019, because I was following my passion, I also learned that I love people so much that I got certified as a life coach. So I have some life coaching clients as well, where we work on just setting goals for the future, because I've made my sort of dream come true right here, where I live on the beach in Hollywood, Florida. I moved back to South Florida, closer to my family. So I'm just living, and it's just been the most amazing journey. I have my own podcast as well. I have my own YouTube channel, but I love connecting with people, love creating content. I love a lot of different creative things. So I'm still finding myself, but it's been a big change this year. So I'm just super excited.
You have a lot going on, brother, just like myself. Let's get into what I found on you, and how I found you is the whole dunk world. Yes. We're gonna dive into that. So Steven, growing up, were you always into dunking? Were you always into basketball? Like, how did this all start as a young kid growing up?
Sure.
And where did you grow up? First off, in Florida as well?
Sure. Florida, South Florida, in West Palm Beach area.
Yeah.
And then when I was about 5, I moved to Boca Raton, which is a little bit south of that. If people have heard of that. So it's funny because it gets a little deep, but I have a video of me dunking in my backyard when I was 5 years old.
I saw that video.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
That was pretty cool. I was like, it definitely ran deep. I always loved it. But growing up, I was shorter than all my friends. I was always athletic. I didn't know this till almost recently, that a lot of that running fast, jumping high came from me kind of trying to find my place as being a shorter person. And I think the jumping high is almost like the perfect manifestation of me trying to get some attention. So I would jump on trampolines, and with my friends, we had a hoop on the trampoline. Always loved dunking. I think as a kid, everybody likes to dunk on low rims. I don't think any boy that plays basketball doesn't love to do that. So I was doing that. And then at the end of high school, I challenged myself. I'm like, I think I could touch the rim. I was on the JV team. And were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something. So you did play competitive basketball.
Yeah, so It goes into the self-belief part. Is when I was young in middle school, I didn't really believe too much in myself. So I didn't really try out for the school teams, but I played a lot of rec teams for fun. I loved playing, but I never practiced seriously. And then when it came to high school, at the end of college, starting college, I set myself a goal to see if I can dunk. Because I saw this guy, his name's Andy Nicholson. He was 39 at the time, 5'10". So, and he went from touching the rim where I was to dunking. So I was like, okay, if this guy's 40 years old, and my height, with my abilities, I definitely can do it. So that's when my belief sort of shifted, and my dunk journey started, and got my first dunk in about a year. And now it's been about pushing those limits. How high can I possibly jump?
So how consistent were you for that 1 year? Was it like, obviously there's a fitness element as well. Like a lot of people think you're just out there playing basketball. I'm sure there's a fitness element to building, whether it's your calves, your quads, building your strength, building your agility, building your flexibility, all that stuff. How much days a week were you so focused on getting this one goal of dunking, which is pretty crazy? Being so, I mean, it's naturally, to my mindset, that's the drive of an entrepreneur. A lot of people don't realize it. It's if you could focus on something and have that drive and willingness to do it till you get it done, that's a natural entrepreneur. And a lot of people don't realize that, right?
Yeah, and I got a little chills when you said that, because pushing myself through that journey, which I can get into, taught me so much about what I do in my business. It really, in my dunking journey, I had such a strong desire to do it whenever I got injured, because I got a lot of injuries. I broke my ankle, I broke both my hands dunking.
This is all within the year?
No. This is like, it's been like 7 or 8 years. But the first year, like you said, the first year I was, I don't even remember. I think I was just going every day. One thing I had to learn was patience, actually, because I was trying to jump every single day. But I wish I knew about flexibility and mobility back then. Back then I was just getting stronger and trying to jump as much as I can. And I think I was doing something almost every single day, whether it was trying to jump or throwing things around to try to make my arm swing stronger, or lifting weights. But I was in college. I luckily didn't need a job at the moment. So I was taking classes and jumping. And I was into fitness before that, but all of that halted. I didn't care about my physique at all. I was strictly jumping. Every day at the gym was about trying to jump higher.
Which college did you go to?
UCF. It's in Orlando.
Okay, very good. What did you major
Florida.
in? What did you major in?
I majored in information technology. I actually even had a minor in finance because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah, which is most individuals when they go to college. So continue the journey. So
sure.
When did you actually dunk? And it was you're looking at 10-foot net you're talking about, right?
So the funny thing is the rim that I actually first dunked on was like slightly bent, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was 2 or 3 inches low. But it was a gym in my mind that I was like, this is a gym, like an LA Fitness public gym that you can go to. And I always use that rim as my barometer. And in my mind, that's always my first dunk, because it was like when that dream came to reality. It was about a year in. I think I started in December of 2010, and then 2011 November, I think, was the very first dunk. And then a couple months later, I hit an actual 10-foot dunk, but I didn't even know the difference. So a couple months later, but yeah, so I got that first dunk, and it was something that really taught me that I couldn't believe. At one point, I didn't even believe it was possible. It's not that I didn't think like maybe it could. It was like, as a kid growing up, like you mentioned, you're in Canada, Vince Carter. I'm like, those are gifted people. They can jump. And when I would see people at the gym that could dunk, it's like, some people are gifted, some people aren't, some people can jump. And then when I taught myself, you can train to do it, I'm like, what other things in my life can I train that I don't?
I love that. I love that. That's exactly the right mindset. That's awesome.
It's insane. Yeah.
I'm going to throw something at you.
Please.
1992, way before your time. How old are you?
27. I was born in 92.
So you were born in 92. So the year this is look at that. The year you were born, a movie came out. I don't know if you ever watched it or not. Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes, White Man Can't Jump.
I've seen it, yes. Not in a long time, but I've definitely seen it, yeah.
Look at that movie came out in 92. I don't know if you're aware of that, which is awesome.
Yeah, I did not know, but that's actually a cool little, that's awesome.
So perfect. So with your journey, so now you finally got your dunk.
Yes.
Did that translate now into competition, or are you competing with this? Or are you doing it more just for fun? Like, how does it work?
I think my main focus with it was trying to make a YouTube out of it, because my YouTube was growing. And I started to, let's think about that. I haven't thought about that in a while. I love documenting my progress, mainly because I was just like, it'd be so cool to look back when I could never dunk and remember that moment when I set up the camera the day one, because I have that footage, and it's like the mindset of that person and the abilities, it's like the transformation will be amazing. So I think the next focus was really YouTube, because I saw these vloggers really getting big. And I also did do some competitions at UCF. We had one, but I actually went against my friends who were pro dunkers at the time. Like they happened to be in Orlando as well. And so I've been in about 3 competitions, and I never really saw that route as what I wanted to do. which is interesting. I never really thought of it that way, but I always thought of it as trying to inspire other people, because my life changed so dramatically from achieving this feat that I wanted to show other people that it's possible. And then like, I still didn't believe the next level I wanted to get to. So that was another giant mindset shift, that I had to kind of prove another thing to myself. That energy that I got, the way I was, the excitement I had for these goals, I really wanted to show other people it's possible, and show them by example, like really achieve next level goals too.
So let's get into one part of your entrepreneurial journey, since that all happened, is teaching and inspiring other people to jump and to dunk now. So let's get into those two parts of your business, and we'll go through all the other aspects you do entrepreneurial wise, but let's start with those two for now. So what are those? Dive into those, and what do you do? What do you offer? How do you work with your clients? Is it virtual? Is it one-on-one?
Yes. So I have a couple programs on my website, like a beginner program for people that don't know where to start. It helps them. It's just a PDF download that they can buy instantly. And it's basically a 2-week program to help them prime their body, understand how it works. And then there's like different phases, because when it comes to jumping, there's speed and strength. The whole goal, it's very simple. I say this, it's a simple formula, but it's very hard work. So what it is you need to increase your speed and increase your strength. And I've been doing it for about 7 to 8 years now. And it's very difficult to increase both at once. So you have to find that balance, but you also have to try to increase both. Because when you try to do one, you become really fast, but you need strength to really use that speed at another level. And sometimes when I tried to get super strong, it would slow me down. So it took a bunch of years of trial and error to understand that balance. And what I landed on was body awareness. It's really a tough skill to learn, to really understand what you're doing to your body, because it seems like you just get under weights on a squat rack, you lift up a lot of weight and you're going to get stronger. That is true, but you want to do it in the right manner. You don't want to get too strong. You don't want to stimulate the wrong type of movements. And you also want to know when to translate from strength to a speed type of training. So that being said, I love my coaching one-on-one. So
before you get into that, I want to jump back
please.
to something you said, Steven, is body awareness.
Yes.
I don't think people understand the importance of that. It's funny you just said that. I had a friend, I would say a new friend, just come in the other day, actually yesterday to my office, and he's a baseball player. Been playing pro ball for years and years and years. He's a pitcher, and at 29, he's making a comeback now. His name's Jazz.
Wow.
And how I met him, he runs a few charities, and I donated some stuff to his charity. He came by my office, and we just hit it off. And he was saying something yesterday, which is exactly what you said. It's the body awareness. At 29 years old, he's learned to understand his body, understand what his body needs. And all of a sudden, this guy's hitting 94 miles an hour pitching at 29, something he never did all the way through his 20s. And now at the end of his 20s, he's hitting 40, and he's making a comeback, trying to get back to a pro level.
That is awesome.
And it's crazy. And exactly what he said. He goes, I finally learned and understood my body and what I needed and how to work and how to rest and how to sleep and just all the components to make
that's so great.
Everything come together. When you said that, it just resonated, because we talked about this yesterday. We had just like hour and a half conversation on just that yesterday, which is pretty amazing.
Wow. So yeah, so that's it's something I just learned this past year and a half. And I'll give you a simple example. Is like my friend is into weightlifting a little bit more. We both dunk, but he's more into like the bodybuilding physique aspect, right? And so he helped me with this. And one thing I noticed that I never even took into consideration is a simple pull-up, right? This is a great example that I use a lot. Is like when you raise your arms above your head, you grab a bar, you think just pull up, right? But the way your body's positioned, the muscles you're pulling with there's a lot of different intricacies, right? And if you focus on a certain muscle, not saying that you just focus on it and then you pull, but you can feel where you're pulling from. So for example, I have my lats and my back, I got certain muscle in my back is very small. And I never really understood why I couldn't do it. I'm doing the right movements, but then for the first time I was like, okay, let me just go on this bar and pull and see if I can flex that muscle. And it felt like a totally different movement, even though it's just a simple pull-up. Point being is I was in the gym throwing weight around, moving, and I wasn't even conscious of which muscles I'm activating.
Yeah. So it's being aware of your body and understanding your body and feeling it, right? It's just a different level once you start understanding that with any form of exercise or movement, right? Which is pretty awesome.
Right.
Okay, let's continue on that journey. So
Let's go.
now with your coaching, so you offer two forms of coaching. You said you have your online PDF download, which is the beginner program. Do you
Yeah.
actually do one-on-one coaching with individuals as well?
Yeah, so I have one coaching. The top product I have is a one-on-one coaching that's daily. I do like a 10-minute call every day. That's for jump training only. I don't have that for the life coaching yet. I have like text accountability, which you could get into. But for the daily coaching, the reason why I say daily is because I need to check in with you every day and get to know your body to help you get to know your own body. So for example, when we have a jump day, like we have workouts throughout the week and we test our vertical on the last day of the week.
Is
The
this
next morning,
is it Steven, is this all virtual or is this in person as well?
yes, this is all
All
virtual.
virtual. Okay. Okay.
Yes. So what I love about it is I learn how they feel and I try to help them understand their own body awareness. And I'm big on sleep, nutrition, and the right amount of movement. So by teaching them that and checking them in, I've learned it so well with myself that I can help them understand what questions to ask their own body. So after a jump day or a workout day, I'll meet in the morning for just quick 10 minutes. How do you feel? How did it go? Did you learn? Did it feel like you went overboard? Do you feel like you went underboard? Like you even had more energy in the tank? Either way, you consistently learn about your energy tank and then how you're stimulating your body. And without doing that tracking, then you never get to a point where there's just too many variables if you're not doing that. And that's what I learned with mine is some days I go so hard and I feel great. Sometimes I go so hard and I feel terrible. It's like, when do I go hard? When do I rest? So it's about really finding I call it the stimulus sweet spot where you can make progress without burning out your body. Because when you have that burnout, you get fatigue and then you get negative as well. And then you spiral. It's really tough.
It's a balance.
Yes,
Such a
definitely.
balance. One thing we talked about prior to going live here today is your I Love Basketball YouTube. And you said
Yes.
you work with a team or you work with teams currently. You want to
Sure.
dive into that a bit?
Yeah, so I Love Basketball is a big YouTube channel. They actually just surpassed 2 million subscribers about a week ago. And
Which is pretty amazing.
So he has different aspects, ball handling, shooting, and I'm the jump coach now. So what I do is I've made a couple videos on his channel, about 5 now. It's only been about 2 or 3 months. And so like we pick a topic. For example, we had a beginner's jump technique where I break down the top 5 things you need to jump higher when it comes to your body positioning, your leg, your footwork, all that type of thing. And we have coaching programs as well. So we came out with a home program while people were in quarantine, and we're looking forward to creating more programs for that. But that's going to be another coaching model as well, where we help kids if they have programs, and probably merge my things in there because I have my own expertise of the jumping. We'll probably merge with him and do coaching as well. Maybe group coaching would be fantastic, because it's tough we want to reach as many people as we can, get as many people as their first dunk as they can. That's my goal. I want to try to get 1,000 people their first dunk. That's like a huge goal of mine.
That's awesome.
I think that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Let's get into you said you were certified as NLP, and let's get into that and talk about the life coaching aspect of what you're doing currently.
Sure. So, when I've looked up life coaching, I was as skeptical as anyone who might hear this. It sounds like fluffy. It sounds like you're going to just help my life. It sounds weird. And I know that. And I've heard that too. And I looked it up. I looked it up, found it fluffy. And then my friend brought it up another time. I'm like, maybe I should really look into this. So I kept looking into it. And I came across this company called INLP. It's completely online. It was a virtual class and certification where you take online classes. And it stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And it was just amazing because one of the things I'm really fascinated by is the mind. Like we've talked a lot about mindset on this thing. The body awareness is basically connecting your mind to your body. So with this neuro-linguistic programming, you're basically a person that helps coach, but it helps the client uncover subconscious blocks, whether it's they don't even know how to look into the future, or they don't even know that they have mental blocks with obstacles. But you don't actually necessarily help them overcome those obstacles. You're kind of just a guiding partner with them as they go along these things. And I learned so much about how the mind works, brain patterns, and it was just something I was so intrigued by and I loved learning about. So once I got certified, I started to do a little bit of life coaching while I was still in my corporate job, but it was tough because you needed like an hour-long call like this to really have a good conversation with somebody. Yeah. And so it was hard to do on my free time, like to make a real business out of it. So I kind of shifted my focus to the audio technical video stuff that I do now, which turned out to be the right move. And now, since I'm producing a podcast as one of my main jobs as well, is I have a lot more free time and flexibility. So if I have a call, I usually have like 2 or 3 calls a week, and we meet weekly.
Let's dive into, so we went through coaching. So you're working currently with your clients.
Yes.
You said, or how long do you work with them? Is it a month-to-month progress? Do you have a 6-month goal? Do you have goals with them, or is it more as I need, they work with you?
Yeah. So my jump coaching is usually 1 to 3 months. Some people want to do a month. I have a free consultation that I do for just 15 minutes. So we kind of design our goals there and then see what they need. A lot of times we do the month, but the most success I've had, or the people that I really work with that really make amazing progress, is the 3-month one. And my goal I don't want to coach them more than 3 months, because I really truly believe that in 3 months, if we're working day in, day out, they really have the resources to create their own program. It's really hard to design a cookie cutter program for somebody, because there's just, like I said, too many variables. There's different ages, there's different body types, there's different status, how strong you are, how fast you are, so many different things. So it actually, if you work with the 3 months with the jump training, it turns into life coaching by the end of the 3 months. When it comes to life coaching, most people stick around for about 3 months as well, but those are kind of as needed. They're almost.
Are you working with entrepreneurs? Are you working with in the business world? Are you working with athletes? Like, what are you working with? Who are you working with? I should word it.
Yeah, in the jump world, it's mostly kids that are just out of high school.
Yeah.
That are jumping. They're not really anything with business related. They just like the mindset.
I meant the life coaching. Yeah.
Yeah. That's people of all ages. It's all different places. A lot of times people are in a stuck state and they want to try to find a new way of living. That's mainly what I find, is that it's not somebody that just wants a goal. They don't know they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They know they want a change and they don't know where. And it's sometimes they're entrepreneurial. Sometimes they've tried it. Sometimes they haven't. But yeah, it's really all over the map when it comes to that.
One thing we're going to jump into, let's jump into our podcasts.
Yeah.
You currently are involved with one, Books to Business, and you have your own podcast. With your own podcast, I want to go through your journey. We talked about this before we went live, your journey with your podcast. First off, you have the best cover art in the fucking world, buddy. That's the best. I saw that. I was like, this is awesome. I gotta put a
story about that.
Let's get to that. Let's talk about your cover art. That is awesome. Let's start with that.
So my podcast is called, the one I work for is Books to Business. That's I'm the producer for. But my own personal podcast is called Steven Celi's Vibrations. And I came up with that title because I don't know what to call it, because I went from about a dunk podcast to just a conversational podcast. But really, at the end of the day, a lot of times I don't know what I want to say, but I just know I want to share some energy. So that's how I landed on that. And then with the cover art, I had the idea. It's my head. For those that are listening, it's my head and it's exploding. There's a third eye in the middle, and there's all these ideas coming out from. I'm gonna
put a links to everything for Steven at the end of in the show notes, and I'll put a little picture of the cover art. It's awesome. Yeah. Go. Sorry. Continue.
No worries. So then I had like basketballs coming out of my head, nutrition, music, comedy, spiritualism, all these different things. Spiritualism or spirituality, whichever one.
Yeah.
So they're all popping out of my head, and it just looks like a really exciting, colorful, loud type of image. And I had that image in my head for a long time, and I'm savvy with internet and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't have the time to really make this good. So I held a contest online, a really great website, and I was blown away. I was like, I gave them that direction. I basically told them that's what I wanted with
So where'd you hold this contest? On social media?
99designs.com.
Oh, very cool.
It's
how many entries did you have?
I got a bunch. I don't know. I think because I made it, there's different ways you can set the contest, but I really wanted the best artist I can possibly did. So, which means you guarantee a winner, because sometimes you can hold a contest and there won't be a winner. So I guarantee that somebody would win. I held it for about a week. I think I got like 40 to 50 entries. And then you select finalists, and it was just awesome. It was what's
the website called?
99 Designs. So the number 99designs.com. Really fantastic art.
I'll put a link to that for anyone looking for cover art or just art in general to check it out. That's pretty awesome. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So let's dive into your podcast. Like you said, it's more of a hybrid right now. It's whatever comes on your mind every single day. You started off here saying once a month, and then once a week, and then it cut off to once a month, and then it started back to daily. How long have you been doing the daily podcast?
Daily, I've been doing since January 1st of this year. But it started out
New Year's resolution.
It was. I stuck to it. I was like, I'm in a new place. I'm back home. Like, I'm free of my job. I can make this happen. And so I'm really excited about that. But it started off as just, I was learning a lot. This came about 3 years ago. I was learning a lot from podcasts and books. And I found myself calling my friends because I was just excited to share this information. Something like this, like say we had this conversation, like I had this great conversation. I learned about mindset and how I know I love to do this now and I want to help other people do that, whatever it is. And I was having the same conversation multiple times with like a few of my friends. And I'm like, this is exhausting. So I'm like, maybe I should start a podcast because a lot of these ideas came from podcasts. So I'm like, again, this was maybe another way I can escape my corporate job because you can monetize them and things like that if they blow up. So that's how it started. But now I have a framework. The reason why it's daily is because that's what works for me. I'm a very high energy person. I do a lot, like you said, but the one thing I can do is talk about how I feel today. And I feel like because I've really worked on my mindset, really made a lot of things come to reality, from my job to my apartment to the way I live, that I could share a lot of insights from that. And I read every day about mindset, or I read about anything business related as well.
Do you read hard copy or is it audiobooks?
I have right behind me, I have a bunch of hard copy. It's my favorite thing at the end of the day because it's finally I get off my phone and it's another part of my routine and the awareness. So I love the hard copies. I do listen to Audible sometimes to help get through a book, but every night I have a hard copy. I definitely like the hard copy.
That's a lost art for most people.
I know.
It's a lost art. It's something that there's nothing like just sitting down with a book. And we were talking, it's funny because I was having this conversation yesterday as well with somebody, is grabbing a book and just to myself, I grab a book and I grab a highlighter and as I'm reading, there's parts of the book I enjoy or something that I want to keep in my head. I'll highlight it and I'll flip the corner of the page. It was almost referral if everyone want to go back to it in 6 months or 7 months and just read it over again. So I enjoy hard copy as well. I think it's a huge thing that people have kind of drifted away from.
Two things I got to say. One that reminded me of the exact reason I do hard copy now. I read The Compound Effect. Have you read that one?
No, Compound Effect. I got to write that down.
It's a really great one. So it really is about how every little decision is compounding on each other, and every moment you have a decision. So it's not just like staying stagnant. If you choose not to do something, that's also a choice. But besides the concept of the book, when I was reading that book, I started reading it on a Kindle or my phone, I can't remember, but I wanted to refer to a page and I couldn't find it because I was scrolling. But then when I got the physical copy, I knew where it was, so it was way easier to flip back. And I was like, and that was the first book that I quote unquote studied. So I was like, oh, this is a different way of reading. I'm not reading to complete this book. This is really changing my mindset, changing the way I interact with every day of my life. I need to study this book to really master these concepts. And the only way I can do that is with the hardcover. I couldn't do it.
I love what you said there, study, because that's one thing I always say is the day you die is the day you stop learning. And with books, I find I'm a strong believer. The best entrepreneurs in the world, you don't have to be going to university. You don't have to be going to college. If you're a natural entrepreneur, it just when you find the right time to become that entrepreneur, when you're in the right place in the right time in your life, it'll just come naturally to you. Whether some people start, like I started super young being an entrepreneur. Some people might start in their 30s, might people start in their 20s. But I find is reading is education. You're always learning something. Even if you take one little thing out of that book and you could apply it towards your life or apply it to helping somebody else, you've done it's been a positive thing. Which is, I love that. I love that you said studying, because it is, in a way, it is a continued education, reading all the time, right?
Yeah. So that's so interesting that you say you come at different times. I never thought of it that way because I could have seen myself doing this a long time ago, but it took me about 4 or 5 years to like understand that that's what I want to do, is kind of the entrepreneurial route.
It's the way my mind is with anything like that. It's everything happens when it's meant to happen. I'm not a religious person. Anybody that knows me true, I'm not a religious person at all, but I do believe in everything happens for a reason. And when it does happen, it was the right time and place for it to happen.
I love that.
Yeah, and also I was having a podcast, we were recording a podcast the other day, and I was talking to this gentleman, and and we actually went by, we're talking, this is something off track, but it's people in your life. And we're talking about having, how many people are actually close to you, how many people do you have in your inner circle. And most people, you could honestly, if you're honest with yourself, you probably have in your one hand, you can count how many people are honestly, truly the right people in your life, right? So we were talking about that, and I was saying that with individuals, everybody has a purpose in your life, whether you meet them for 1 minute at the grocery store, whether you have them in your life for 5 years. So if I have somebody in my life for 5 years and something happens, where there's an argument, they move, and I never talk to that person ever again, I'm okay with that, because they had their purpose for those 4 or 5 years. Whatever their purpose was, they had their purpose. And you're going to meet millions of people throughout your lifetime, whether it's just visually walking down the street and smiling at somebody. That was a purpose to make you feel better that moment. So everybody has a purpose, and every time you read something, you learn something. There's a purpose of it. So that's why you have to take and understand when you're living, right?
How did you get to that mindset? Because I believe the same thing. I was just curious what led you to that.
You know what? It's, to be honest, it's something where I've always had it. I've never been the type of person when, like, high school friends, like, I'll give you an example. Like a lot of people will have all their high school friends their whole life. They'll have a group of them. My high school friends, I realized at a very young age, like, these are not the type of guys I want to be with when I'm 30 years old or 40 years old.
Wow.
And that mindset has always had that, where I don't get, and I don't know if it's being an entrepreneurial mindset or whatnot, but I understand when that person is out of your life. And I tell my wife this. My wife is pure opposite than I am with this, because she emotionally gets hurt when somebody else gets out of her life or something like that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know if it's that mindset where that person had that purpose. And it's at that point, you have to enjoy whatever time they had with you and move on to the next one. Because you're going to meet, how many people you meet every single day.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that, right? So it's just, and through that purpose of meeting people, you will find that 1 or 2 people every once in a while that you're going to be lifetime friends with. Right. Yeah. So, and some of those 2 or 3 of the closest people in my life, individuals in my life, if you were to put us next to each other, career wise, maybe family wise, we're totally different, but for some reason they're good souls. And you realize that those individuals have more of a meaning than actual, whether it's financial, whether it's they carry the same sports, they're just good souls, good people. And you want to surround yourself, life's so short. You want to surround yourself with good souls, good people that truly care about you, not care about what kind of car you drive, what kind of job you have, what kind of career you have, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I just rambled on. This interview is about you, not me.
No, I was just super curious, but that actually leads me back into the business world. Is that something I learned late last year, which really, really ignited my entrepreneurial journey, which was I was grinding for 5 years or so, 3 to 5 years on my YouTube, completely alone. And I took pride in that because I was doing my YouTube, I was creating content, I was on my journey, I was training basketball by myself. And all these things need people. Like for example, I coach people, it helps them immensely. I've been coached by people too that are expert trainers, but back when dunking started, they weren't big trainers yet, but now they're coaching big time people. So I was very lucky. But my point is, I realized in the middle of last year that I have no network. I have all these skills of producing a podcast, creating a YouTube channel, filming with the high quality audio and video, creating social content that's engaging. Like I have built my own platforms, and I'm like, I need to find people to work with, because you can't just build something completely on your own. So networking was a huge shift for me. And that's actually how I met the people I work with now. I went to a networking event. So it was just a really giant shift.
Let's jump into Books to Business. What is that podcast? What do you do with it? How long have you been involved with it? Let's just run into that. And what is it all about? Books to Business.
For sure. So we started in October. It is with 2 hosts, Terrence McMahon and Eddie Pinero. Terrence McMahon is a retired CEO, and he now
is Eddie Pinero? That's who you work with?
Yes.
So you're his producer?
Awesome? Yes.
Do you realize he was on my podcast this week?
No.
Yeah, he was on Wednesday.
Oh my God, I probably was in the same studio.
So you said you guys live on the same building.
Yes. Well, I live in a different apartment now, but like the studio we work with, I'm at all the time where he lives.
So you're his producer. What a small world, buddy.
Not only for his podcast, his Books to Business podcast. All his YouTube is all him. But that's
what
really
a
awesome.
small world.
I mentioned him this morning. I was like, hey guys, I got a podcast at 9. I'll see you after, because I usually go over there to say hi. And they're like, good luck. So it's gonna be so cool to go over and be like, hey, it was Jeff.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
gonna be awesome.
What a small world.
That's awesome.
That's
So
very,
yeah,
very
so
good.
Eddie Pinero, which is really cool because Eddie has a big YouTube. He's at about 218,000, I believe now.
Yeah.
And I met him back in 2018 through a mutual friend. I didn't get to meet him in person, but we had a phone call. I was trying to become a YouTuber, got to pick his brain a little bit. So then it kind of came full circle. Almost a year later, I didn't even know, but then now we're working together. So it's just it's been incredible. So Eddie, as like you might know, but other people might not, he has a big YouTube channel all about motivation. It's called Your World Within. And it's a big motivational
pretty
channel.
Amazing videos.
He's incredible. So he has really big ambitions to be one of the greatest speakers he can be. And it's really awesome to see him go through that. So how this podcast came to be was he had his YouTube channel. He kind of was behind the scenes with it, creating the speeches and the videos. And Terrence was in the financial world and he wanted to recreate himself. Terry and Eddie both have done TED Talks and do speaking engagements routinely. And they combined their talents. They both were similar to how I started my own podcast. They were sharing their ideas with books. They were huge on books. They both were reading. They both moved to Hollywood, Florida. They both saw each other at these events. And they're like, we should start a podcast together. They started the podcast together. And as the stars aligned, that's when I met them. And they were just getting started. I'm like, hey, I do all of that. I would love to work with you guys. And so now what they do in the podcast is they review a book every single week. And it's to help you start your entrepreneurial journey. Like, for example, you'll like this one. The very first episode, we used Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss and The Alchemist. Awesome. Because it is the up and down. It's the up and down. Course. You're going to fall and you stick with it. And so the first season was all about like starting from your journey, the mindset, finding what your one thing is, and then how to market. So it's very much using books, the passion of books, to outline the journey of an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. Yeah. Small world. Yeah. And we and in the podcast I did with Eddie, we went through Your World Within, and we actually talked about books of business. And when you mentioned it, I kept thinking in my head, like, I just heard it. I just heard this the other day. I'm like, I couldn't click in my head. Where did I hear this? That's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. That's cool.
I'm going to throw something right off topic. Throw it off the topic to you. With your dunking, have you ever gone to playgrounds and side hustled?
I haven't hustled anybody, but one of my favorite things to do, it's just a common stereotype that white man can't jump. There was an entire movie out of it, like you said.
Yeah.
There's an entire movie made out of it, so it's not an unknown thing. It's not a wild concept. But when I walk in the gym at 5'10", people do not expect it. So when I warm up, the funniest story that can happen is I asked to play next, right? Nobody knows me. They're like, I already got 5, meaning they already have a team ready to go. And then I warm up, shoot around, and once I get warm, I throw down a dunk. And they're like, hey, we got room on our team. And then out of nowhere, now they have room on their team. So that's one of my favorite things, and especially going to a new court and dunking, it really blows people away. That's one of my favorite things to do. So I haven't hustled anybody, but I have shocked a lot of people.
With your Instagram page, and I have to look more into your YouTube channel as well, but with your Instagram page, I was just scrolling through some of your videos.
Yes.
Very, very creative. There's one video, I'm going to send a link as well too. I want people to check it out. You're having a coffee, and I think you're saying, what day is it today, or have a good day, and you get the pop-ups. You do all your editing, you do all your stuff yourself?
Yeah, so that's something that came from me when I was a kid as well, which is why YouTube felt right. Is ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated by the video camera and editing. I just thought it was so cool. I don't really know when it started, but I've always been editing, trying to push the limits of that. I love creating funny videos like that where I'm talking to myself, like a clone appears of me talking. I actually dunked on myself recently in a recent video, which I
saw that one too.
But video editing has been something I love, and it's funny because the greatest quote that I always go back to is that you don't know, it's from Steve Jobs. He says, you can't see how the dots connect until you look backwards. So that's a very, very cool. I've never heard that. I've never heard that quote before. That is actually very interesting when you say that. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So like I was filming stuff when I was 10 years old, making those silly videos just for fun, pure fun. And I was also playing basketball for pure fun. And I didn't realize it at the time in high school, but I was always the one that I would open up to people and be their confidant and help them with their relationships, even, and random things. And like, I just loved that aspect. I didn't know it. But now looking back, it all makes sense that where I'm at now, that all those things were kind of things I love to do. And now it's become my entrepreneurial business journey. But you got to follow what you like to do.
That's the entrepreneurial dream, right? It's waking up every day and not going to work. Yeah. It's essentially waking up every day and doing something you love, right? And that is the greatest gift of being an entrepreneur. And it's almost like everybody's dream. Just difference from entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs is who has the balls to go out and do it, right? Yes. And take that step and take that leap of faith and have the drive. And like you said, the 1 year dunk, it's having that drive. I'm a strong believer you can't teach it to somebody. Yeah. That's what makes, you could get two athletes, they both have the same height, they both have the same agility, same everything. If one has the determination in the heart, he's going to set himself apart. Perfect example. Did you watch the Last Dance with MJ?
I have not yet. I need to.
Oh my God! Badly. Of all, Mr. Basketball, Mr. Motivation, Mr. Spiritual. That documentary. It's insanely how you watch MJ, and he was not the most athletic person. He was not the most talented. His drive. Yeah. Nothing could touch that. His mindset and his drive is just unreal. It's something you can't teach. And if you have that heart and that drive, you just keep going and going and going and going. I coach a traveling baseball team, like kids baseball, locally. And right now, the age group I coached last year was 11U, and this year was going to be 12U, but everything with COVID-19 has been so far held back. But I always tell kids is from ages from 11 and 12, the kids that play the top tier level are the most athletic. And then you have tier 2, tier 3. Tier 3 are usually just the kids are just trying to get up there. And I look at all these kids, and those are the kids I coach, and I look at these kids all the time and I say, the difference from you and that athletic kid, if you put in the work and you put in the time and you give a shit right now, by the time you turn 14, the athletic ability and the hard work, all of a sudden the hard worker starts coming up and rising and rising. By the time you turn 15, that athletic ability starts dropping and the hard work keeps coming up and come up. And literally by the time you turn 16, that hardworking kid is hands down a way better baller than that kid God. The athletic kid that was 14. And I drive and I push and I explain that to them. It's the hardest working kids and the ones that give a shit are the ones that are going to succeed, not the athletic gifted kids when they're 13 or 11 and they're just like they're killing it because they're just athletic specimens. That all changes.
That's a perfect analogy, and I love that. Like when I coach for the I Love Basketball, like a lot of times I'm telling them jump technique and I'm telling them little intricacy things. And I'm telling them it's not about working on these little details. It's about the mindset of every little detail counts and it'll add up, and you're going to be better than the people that overlook these small details. It's not that you don't feel it in the moment. It reminds me of the compound effect. It's like these little details you won't feel. You're not going to dunk by lifting your hip right now, like this little hip movement, but you're going to strengthen that hip, which is going to show you that every little piece of your body matters. And over time, everything adds up and you will be proud of yourself, number one. And number two, you will be light years ahead of people who neglected those things in the past.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's awesome. Let's dive into something that's very important to you, your spiritual side and your beliefs. Let's get into that, just to everybody to get to know you a little bit more insight.
So,
and when did you actually start understanding that or getting into that?
I think it really started at the beginning of 2018, and I just have to preface it with I had zero of it in me at all. I grew up Jewish. My mother was Jewish, bar mitzvahed and everything, and I wasn't a fan of it just because it felt like something I had to do. Like I didn't feel like something I found on my own. So I as a kid, you always push away a little bit. So I pushed away from it, and then in high school, after I finished all of that, I was had no religion in my life at all, nothing like that. And I almost shunned it. I almost didn't want to believe. I was like, doesn't make any sense to me, anything like that. But then in 2018, read my first book because I listened to podcasts. I was very moved by podcasts. The mindset. It was how much I learned in such a short period of time. I was a big fan of Joe Rogan. And learning about space and how much is out there and how little I know. I was like, if I learned this much in a 3-hour podcast, what am I doing? Like, I think my awareness is just growing. At the time I was about 20, 24, 25. I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I'm spending so much time, like basically unconscious, like driving to work and doing these things. I'm like, that changed my outlook on life so much. One podcast, and I'm like, what else is out there? So that's when it kind of sparked my knowledge hunger. Started reading, started listening to more podcasts. And as I kept reading, I kept learning about the mindset and meditation and different things, and all these successful people read books. And I'm glad we got back to this, because when I was talking about reading every night, I couldn't even read. I couldn't even focus on a book. I have high energy, and it's a great thing, but it's very hard to sit still and read. Yeah. And I never read a book in my life till 2018. And I read that book, and it was a struggle. It took me like months and months, and I stopped. I put it down for weeks. And so as I kept reading, and I learned more about reading, and I tried meditation, that really changed my outlook. And I started to feel the benefits, meaning I would feel more awareness. Like I would feel like a negative thought come in my head, but I was aware of it. I'm like, oh, I'm catching myself. I don't have to react. I'm like, wow, I'm kind of understanding what meditation's doing. And the more I went into that, the more I started to learn about what's going on, and just really questioning the world. And that's basically where it ends up, is that I question the world a lot, meaning what's my purpose? What's my meaning? And you get into these really deep questions, and then I research on them and think about what people have said. Like I'm reading that Beyond Religion book by the Dalai Lama, like what his thoughts are on the Beyond Religion. I mean, like things like what the world is. So it's just, it kind of came from I was very analytical, very logical. I had no belief that like spiritual things existed, but I just kept learning and reading different perspectives. And as I did so, these different things, for example, quantum physics, like the way subatomic particles, they very similar to the way the Seven Spiritual Laws book, that's one of my favorites, outlines how like the law of detachment works, where you want a goal so badly, but you have to let go of it so you can be open to all the possibilities of getting there. You can't have one strict path. You got to be open.
So, I believe in that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's like it comes out as spiritualism. Why do I keep making up that word? It comes out on the surface to look very spiritual, but I just want to reiterate, like I had an IT background. I was the most analytical, mathematical minded person. And now just from my own research, with everything was skeptical. Like I would have, that doesn't make sense. I dive into that. Okay. I'm starting to see other perspectives. And it just, the evidence just points to these theories that just have led me to my physical journey of like understanding, like, okay, maybe I'm doing, for example, I was chasing this dunk goal. A part of me back in the day was trying to prove people wrong. And that's a great driver. But what that did is that, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Well, continue. I'll dive into that in a second. Okay. That's the worst thing to set a goal, is to prove people wrong. You're doing it for yourself mentally, right?
Exactly.
There you go. Continue. Sorry.
No worries. So it was both. I was proving people wrong, and it was definitely for myself how it started. And I believe in like shifting mindsets. What I mean by that is proving someone wrong could be an insane driver, but it can't be the only one, right? And but it can be detrimental, meaning like it definitely pushed me on days I needed some extra motivation, but then it pushed me too hard on days I needed to rest. For example, like if I post on social media a lot, if I said I'm going to land this dunk and I don't, then I said it, and now I have people that like say, oh, you said you would do this, whatever. Now I want to go back to the gym and push myself even harder, but that's, like I said, going to burn me out. I'm going to lead to an injury. And so that driving force turned out to be detrimental. So having the awareness of like, oh, I don't want to do this for someone else, and I don't want to do this for my ego. That's the spiritual side of what I do. It's like making sure my purpose for what I do, dunking, life coaching, even like financially free, all these different giant goals I have, they come from a place of purpose and a place that I'm being authentic with myself. Is basically the spiritual side of things.
That's awesome. It's honest, and that's the most important part, right? And there's no, when you're talking about spiritual, there's no right or wrong with it. It's where you see yourself in it. And sometimes it'll grow, sometimes it'll be a little less. You just have to go with the flow with it, right? And spiritualism to me is balance, right? It's just more of a balance in life, whether it's with your family, whatever it is, work. It's just a balance and being happy when you're there. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's having
Oh,
that's a form
definitely.
of happiness. Let's get to your family. So
Yeah.
young guy goes to college. When you decided to start this dunking goals and how did your parents react to that?
So I was in college. My dad was very proud of that already. His whole goal was get that kid to college. He was in the IT field. He was a computer scientist. So I was kind of following in his footsteps. So he was content. His whole goal was make sure I'm comfortable living. So he was great. And he was like, dunking would be awesome. I don't know if he believed I could do it, but he was definitely supportive. I don't know what he was thinking, but he was definitely proud. And my mom was just like, oh, of course. Like she's always just like, yep, 100% go for that. She's already thinking like, did you reach out to Nike to get sponsored yet? I'm like, I can't even dunk yet. I'm just trying. So like, that's how supportive she is. She was the best. So they both were very, very supportive. But when it came to chasing my dreams, that was something I had to, again, like the entrepreneurial thing about, I quit my job out of nowhere, meaning like I told my mom, I moved back in with my mom. I'm like, hey mom, because she mentioned I could. I'm like, mom, I'm going to make the jump. I'm going to quit and I'm going to move back in because she had an extra room. She's like, of course you can. I'm like, and I felt guilty. If it was a tough, you feel like you're going backwards, like back to the entrepreneurial part of like what I do is like, my parents were extremely supportive. So I was so grateful for that. Cause I was thinking some people don't have a safety net like that, even though to me, they're like you said, like it takes balls. You have to suck it up and live with your mom at 27. So it's like, it was a tough decision.
Sacrifices, buddy. That's everything in life you succeed on. There's going to be a sacrifice.
100%.
And you're going to fall and you just got to get your ass back up. But there's always a sacrifice involved. And it's finding that balance where is at this point in my life, is that sacrifice really worth taking? And when you put in your head, listen, it is worth taking. I'm ready to go for it. You dive 2 feet in, you go for it, man. You don't, it's that beautiful feeling of it's that butterflies and that fear, but that just shows you're living, right? Those butterflies are, it's being real. Like if you, I'm into the martial art and boxing world. Like I was talking to you prior with our company Comoreware, and you talk to athletes that step into a cage or into a ring and they could have fought 50 times. They always get those butterflies, whether there's a boxer or not. It's that, and it's not a bad thing. It's being alive. It's that your body saying, get your body telling you, hey, this is a good thing. Let's get this shit on the road kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
It's a jumping 2 feet in is a true entrepreneur. The guys that do, I'm going to start a little business, but I'm still having my safety net with my full-time job. No, man, if you're going to do it, you do it.
So I did that. I did the tiptoe for a little bit because I was doing audio video on the side, like with small clients here and there, but it was really hard to make a full-time business out of. I was trying to escape corporate. I was thinking maybe I can make videos for people, but it was a lot of work. So I tried a lot of different things. I tried creating YouTube video for people, audio podcasts for people. I was editing videos for people. I was coaching people, but it was really hard to do it. And then it came to the point last year. I'm like, okay, I really think I have enough skills now. I have a safety net that I can stay at my mom's no matter how low it makes me feel or backwards I feel like I'm going. I love my mom, not to put that way, but you know what I mean? And so it just feels like you're taking a step backwards. And so I was like, you know what? I have too many skills. If I don't give it a full effort, I don't think I ever will. I'm like, this is the greatest time than ever. I have some money, a little cushion saved up. I put in the work. And I think my mindset, it was a big mindset shift too. I was like, if I go full in with this, I know I will work day in, day out to find clients, to make it work, to really get on my feet. And so that's what I did. I was like, you know what, now or never. And I made the jump. I quit before I had any prospects. So that was pretty cool. That was awesome. That was a wild feeling.
With your experience you've had now, just in the last year and a half, building up your business, is there any kind of humps that you went over that you could turn to another young entrepreneur and say, hey, this is what I went through. This is my advice for you now. Any advice you give a young entrepreneur trying to take that leap of faith, that jump into being a full-time entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would, I go back to the mindset when it comes to that, which would be think of the best and worst case scenarios. For me, it was the worst case was I leave my job and I could get another one. So that was a really big safety net as well. It's like, it's just an IT job. It's nothing special. I was making good money, but I'm like, I have a place to live. Maybe my mom needs a place to live and I don't, then I go on the streets. I know I can get a job. So I think the best thing you can do is really build up your resourcefulness. Because for me, I learned how to do audio. I learned how to do video. I learned how to, like, I keep listing off these things, but I had so many skills and I was able to learn all those skills myself that it gave me confidence that I could find some way to monetize those skills. So for me, it would be really build up how valuable you can be. It's going to be scary no matter what, but if you can build value and get some kind of sign that you're making progress in any way of increasing your knowledge, increasing what you can do for somebody else, and really learning about yourself, if you're going to make the jump and it's for that greater purpose of like a life that you just can't live without, then that motivation will run endlessly. So it's kind of a vague type of way to put that, but I don't have any tangible things besides just really work hard and have trust. Like have a clear vision of what you want.
Trust the process.
The last thing I would say is awareness. Is have a clear vision of what the life you want is, because when times get tough, it's just like dunking in the entrepreneurial world. When it gets tough, if you have the awareness of what that life is and how meaningful it would be to you, it'll help you through those really tough times.
Very cool.
You can connect to that vision.
I always end off with a few questions I ask all our guests.
Sweet.
The first one, I don't even know if you're going to pick anything differently, but I always ask if you, just because your journey to getting to where you are now with your as a young boy dunking and video editing and whatnot, but if you had another career choice or something as a kid, whether I wanted to be an NBA or whatever it is, what would it be?
Wow, I think it might have been something with film, video editing, and like something in the film industry. Because I think it captures a lot of what I do. It's like from speaking, from the writing to the visuals to the music. It kind of combines a lot of arts.
You're in the right direction. So you might, that might still lead you there, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The reason I say that is because in college, I took one film class and I loved it, but I didn't even know that was an option, just like the dunking thing, right? So I would have probably gone that route, like really learned every ins and outs of TV and industry and all that type of thing, like from the ground up, like really went heavy into that. Very hard competitive industry too, huh? Yeah. I mean, I don't even know the first thing about it. I just love the art side of it.
Yeah, but you're in the right path. So it was something that you might still, whether it's indie films or something, start in that path, right?
Me and Eddie talk about it all the time. It's like he's got the same type of passion for film, and we think about making something together. So we always brainstorm, and I think it's a long-term type of project. But yeah, we definitely would love to do something like that.
Indie films have become massive in all these highlight film shows and film like content, stuff like that. It's indie films are huge right now. So it's something maybe you guys look into over the next few years.
Definitely.
And start playing around with. Next question. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Woo, superpower. I wouldn't say fly because I love jumping. And if I could fly, it would negate that. I would think it would be, oh man, that's such a tough one. Superpower. Let's go through them a little bit. I don't care to be invisible. Let's think of a cool one.
Making you think, huh, Steven?
I would say if I could, it's almost a superpower what I do, but I would love to show others. I know it goes on to others, but like, it's kind of like mind reading, but mind read someone and maybe know their truest dreams so they could feel that. Because when I had someone, I think it was I forget which book it was, or the life coaching course, when someone asked me like what my dream life would be and had me define it, the possibility of going towards that, even just a chance of living that life, was so impactful and so inspiring that it inspires every day of my life. And it makes me such a happy person to be going towards that's what I really would love to have other people see, is like, this is possible. I would love to have a power that would show people what's possible with their life if they just believed it. So whatever that would be called. That's kind of a very altruistic superpower. It's not a very, I don't know.
Next question, last question I'm going to ask you for today. If you were gone tomorrow and you had a close friend have to describe you in a few words, how would you want to be described?
Oof. Someone with the highest energy possible, who believed that anyone could achieve their dreams.
End it with that. This is awesome. I appreciate this today, Steven. This has been cool. It's been amazing getting to know you as a person, getting to know your story, getting to know where you came from and all that. And also I can see you as an entrepreneur. There's so much more coming. This is just a little glimpse. There's, as a person, I can tell your energy and your drive. So this is just, you're just taking baby steps right now. You have a lot ahead of you still. So I'm excited to hopefully become friends over the time and see how your journey continues, buddy.
I'd love to be in contact with you. Thank you so much for having me. And I would love to pick your brain more on the entrepreneurial stuff about my business, your business. I would love to continue grow together. That'd be awesome.
I'm going to put all of Steven's info, contact, YouTube channels, social media on our show notes. And we're going to push as hard to get everybody to see his awesome videos. And
Thanks a lot, man.
And see dunking is possible for a 5'10" white guy.
Yes, anybody. I can believe it.
Very cool, buddy. Thank you so much. And we're out. Peace.
Thank you so much, man. See ya.